Hannah sat in her usual spot at the back corner of the classroom. Row 7, seat by the window. The same place she had chosen on her first day at Seoul International Academy 3 months ago. She kept her head down as Mr. Kim explained another math problem on the whiteboard. Her long black hair fell like a curtain around her face, hiding her eyes from the world. The other students barely noticed her. To them, she was just the quiet transfer student who never spoke unless a teacher called on her directly. She ate lunch alone, always bringing the same simple meal of rice and vegetables. While her classmates chatted and laughed, Hannah would pull out her notebook and draw. What looked like innocent sketches to anyone passing by were actually detailed maps. Floor plans of buildings around Seoul, guard rotations at important locations, escape routes through the subway system. Today she was working on the layout of the Valith Embassy downtown. Her pencil moved quickly across the paper, marking every window, every door, every security camera she had memorized during her walk past the building yesterday. Juwon glanced over from the seat next to her. She was one of the few students who had tried to be friendly to Hannah. "You draw really well," she whispered during the lesson. "What is that building?" Hannah quickly flipped the page to a blank sheet. "Just something I saw on TV," she said quietly. Her voice was soft, almost shy. It was a voice that made teachers lean in closer when they asked her questions. A voice that made people think she was harmless. When the final bell rang, students packed their bags quickly. Most were heading to their evening study sessions at various hagwons around the city. Others had club activities or part-time jobs. Hannah waited until the classroom was nearly empty before she stood up. She moved slowly, carefully, like someone who was tired or maybe a little sad. "Hannah," Minho called from the doorway. He was the class president, tall and friendly with a smile that made him popular with everyone. "Some of us are going to get pizza. Do you want to come?" She shook her head, not meeting his eyes. "I have to go home. My grandmother worries if I am late." It was a lie. Hannah lived alone in a small apartment paid for by people whose names she did not know. But the story of a caring grandmother was simple and believable. It explained why she never stayed for after-school activities. It explained why she seemed so careful and quiet. Minho looked disappointed, but nodded. "Maybe next time," he said kindly. Hannah waited another 10 minutes after the last student left. Then she pulled out her phone. To anyone watching, it looked like an ordinary smartphone that any teenager might carry. But when she pressed a specific sequence of buttons, the screen changed. New apps appeared. Encrypted messages downloaded automatically. Her handler had sent new instructions. Target confirmed for tonight. Ambassador Calric of the Valith delegation. Location verified. Timeline critical. She read the message twice, then watched it delete itself from her phone. Her fingers moved to another hidden app, one that showed her detailed information about her target. Calric was a mid-level diplomat who had been on Earth for 6 months. He believed humans were nothing more than clever animals. He had been personally responsible for selecting over 300 humans for transport off-world as slaves. Tonight, he would learn that some animals bite back. Hannah packed her school bag carefully. Inside, hidden in a secret compartment she had built herself, were tools that would make a professional soldier jealous. Carbon fiber blades that could cut through alien armor. Explosives that looked like ordinary makeup. A small device that could disable electronic security systems. She walked home through the busy streets of Seoul. Around her, people hurried to their evening plans. Office workers heading home to their families. Students rushing to their study sessions. None of them knew that their world had been invaded 3 years ago. None of them understood that aliens walked among them, making plans to harvest more humans for their galactic slave trade. But Hannah knew, and tonight, one less alien would be making those plans. She reached her apartment building as the sun began to set. Time to change clothes. Time to become someone very different from the quiet girl who sat in the back of math class. Time to hunt. The Valith Embassy stood like a dark tower against the Seoul skyline. Most people walking past saw only another modern office building with tinted windows and security guards. They did not see the hidden weapon systems built into the walls. They did not see the alien technology humming quietly behind the glass facade. But Hannah saw everything. She crouched on the rooftop of the building across the street. Her school uniform was gone, replaced by dark clothing that seemed to drink in the shadows. Her hair was pulled back tight, and her face was painted with black streaks that broke up her outline. The quiet girl from math class had vanished completely. Through her night vision scope, she counted 12 guards on the ground level. 6 more patrolled the upper floors. All of them carried weapons that could kill a human with one shot. All of them believed they were protecting something important from weak Earth creatures who could barely fight back. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Hannah slipped a small device from her belt. It looked like a toy, but it contained technology that could shut down the embassy's security system for exactly 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Enough time for someone very fast and very skilled to get inside. She pressed the button and counted to 10. Then she moved. Her first jump took her from the rooftop to the embassy's fire escape. She landed without making a sound, her body absorbing the impact like water. The second jump brought her to a window on the 3rd floor. Her tools made quick work of the lock. Inside, the embassy was different from human buildings. The hallways were wider, built for creatures much larger than people. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sharp that made her nose wrinkle. Red lights pulsed slowly along the walls, casting everything in an alien glow. Hannah moved through the corridors like a ghost. She had memorized every turn, every room, every possible escape route. Her target would be in the secure conference room on the 7th floor. Ambassador Kellerick liked to work late, planning which humans would be taken next. 2 guards stood outside the conference room. They were not human. Each one was over 7 feet tall with gray skin that looked like armor plating. Their 4 eyes scanned the hallway constantly, and their clawed hands rested on energy weapons that could melt through steel. Hannah smiled. Aliens always made the same mistake. They assumed that bigger meant stronger. They assumed that advanced weapons made them unbeatable. They never considered that the most dangerous predator might be the smallest one. She threw a small sphere down the hallway. It bounced once, twice, then exploded in a flash of brilliant light. The guards roared in surprise, temporarily blinded. In that moment of confusion, Hannah struck. Her first blade found the gap between the nearest guard's armor plates. The alien dropped without making another sound. The second guard spun toward her, raising his weapon, but Hannah was already moving. She rolled under his aim and came up behind him. Her second blade found his neck. The conference room door was locked with alien technology, but Hannah had studied their systems for months. Her tools worked just as well on alien locks as they did on human ones. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Kellerick sat behind a massive desk covered with holographic displays. He was reviewing files of human faces, marking some for transport, others for elimination. When he saw Hannah, his 4 eyes widened in what might have been amusement. "A human child," he said in accented English. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "Did you get lost looking for your parents?" Hannah stepped closer. In her hand, a blade reflected the red light from the alien displays. "I am looking for someone," she said quietly. "Someone who thinks my people are animals." Kellerick reached for a weapon on his desk, but Hannah was faster. Much faster. Her blade found his heart before he could even touch the gun. As the alien ambassador fell forward onto his files, Hannah grabbed his datapad. Information about the next transport. Names of human collaborators. Plans for expanding the slave trade. All of it would go to the resistance. Sirens began to wail outside. The embassy's backup security system had finally activated. Time to leave. Hannah retraced her steps through the building, moving even faster now. She reached the window just as patrol vehicles surrounded the embassy below. Through her scope, she could see human police officers arriving at the scene. They would find nothing useful. The aliens were too careful for that. But they would find Ambassador Kellerick's body. and they would know that someone was fighting back. 20 minutes later, Hannah walked through her apartment door. She was wearing her school uniform again, carrying her backpack like any other student coming home late from study session. The weapons and dark clothing were hidden away until the next mission. She sat at her small desk and opened her homework. Math problems that suddenly seemed very simple compared to calculating attack angles and escape routes. As she worked, she could hear sirens in the distance, growing louder as more police rushed toward the embassy. Tomorrow, she would sit in her corner seat and listen to her classmates talk about the strange incident at the embassy. They would wonder what kind of person could break into such a secure building. They would never guess that person was sitting right next to them. The hunt had begun. The next morning came with gray clouds and cold rain. Hannah walked into Seoul International Academy at exactly the same time she always did. Her backpack hung from one shoulder, and her hair was slightly damp from the weather. She looked like any other student trying to stay dry on a wet Tuesday morning. But Ji-won noticed something different right away. There was a small bandage on Hannah's left hand, just visible beneath her sleeve. When Hannah moved to her seat, she walked differently too. Not limping exactly, but with the careful steps of someone whose muscles were sore from unusual activity. "Did you hurt yourself?" Ji-won asked as Hannah sat down in her corner seat. Hannah glanced at her hand as if she had forgotten about the bandage. "I fell off my bike yesterday evening," she said softly. "Nothing serious." It was a good lie. Simple and believable. But Ji-won had been watching Hannah for weeks now, and she was starting to notice that the quiet girl had a lot of small injuries. A bruise on her arm last month, scratches on her neck 2 weeks ago. Always with reasonable explanations, always dismissed as clumsiness or bad luck. The morning news played on the classroom television. While students settled into their seats, the reporter was talking about a break-in at a foreign embassy downtown. 1 person dead, no arrests made, police asking for anyone with information to come forward. Most of the students were not paying attention. They were more interested in comparing homework or discussing weekend plans. But Ji-won watched Hannah's face carefully. The quiet girl showed no surprise at all when the reporter mentioned the embassy. No curiosity about who might have done such a thing. Her expression remained exactly the same as always. That was when Ji-won realized something important. Normal people react to surprising news. They lean forward, they whisper to friends, they show some kind of emotion. But Hannah sat perfectly still, as if she already knew everything the reporter was saying. During lunch break, Ji-won made an excuse to borrow Hannah's pencil. As she reached across the desk, she got a clear look at the notebook Hannah was always drawing in. What she saw made her blood run cold. The page was covered with detailed sketches, but they were not the kind of drawings a normal student would make. There were floor plans of buildings she recognized around Seoul, diagrams showing guard positions and security cameras, notes written in tiny handwriting about patrol schedules and weak points in various defenses. At the bottom of the page, almost hidden beneath other sketches, was a drawing of the embassy that had been in the news that morning. Every window was marked. Every entrance was noted. And in the corner, written in numbers that looked like a code, was yesterday's date. Ji-won's hand trembled as she handed the pencil back. Hannah took it without looking up from her rice bowl, as if nothing had happened. But Ji-won noticed something else now. The way Hannah held the pencil. Her grip was wrong for someone who just drew pictures for fun. It was the grip of someone used to holding weapons. "Thank you," Hannah said politely, her voice as soft and shy as always. Ji-won nodded but could not speak. Her mind was racing with questions she was afraid to ask. Who was this girl sitting next to her every day? What were those drawings really for? And why did she have detailed plans of a building where someone had died last night? After school, Ji-won followed Hannah at a distance. She told herself she was just being curious, that she probably had the wrong idea about everything. Maybe the drawings were for an art project. Maybe the bandage really was from falling off a bike. But as she watched Hannah walk through the busy streets, Ji-won noticed more strange things. The quiet girl moved differently when she thought no one was watching. Her steps were careful and silent. Her eyes constantly scanned the area around her, checking reflections in store windows, noting which people were walking in the same direction. Hana stopped at a small electronics shop and went inside. Through the window, Juan could see her talking to an older man behind the counter. They spoke for only a few minutes, but something changed hands. The man gave Hana a small package, and she gave him what looked like money. When Hana came out of the shop, she glanced directly at the spot where Juan was hiding behind a parked car. For just a moment, their eyes met across the busy street. Hana's expression was not the shy, uncertain look she wore at school. It was sharp and calculating, like someone evaluating a potential threat. Then the moment passed. Hana's face returned to its usual gentle mask, and she continued walking home as if nothing had happened. But Juan knew she had been seen, and more importantly, she knew that the quiet girl in the corner seat was hiding something much bigger and more dangerous than anyone at school could imagine. That night, Juan lay awake staring at the ceiling. She thought about the notebook full of building plans. She thought about the way Hana moved like a predator pretending to be prey. She thought about the embassy break-in and the perfect timing of Hana's mysterious injuries. Most of all, she thought about the look in Hana's eyes when she realized she was being followed. It was not the look of a scared teenager. It was the look of someone who had killed before and would not hesitate to kill again. Juan pulled her blanket closer and tried to sleep, but one question kept repeating in her mind over and over again. What kind of monster was sitting next to her in math class every day? Captain Hyunwoo stepped off the transport ship and breathed Earth's air for the first time. It tasted weak and thin compared to the atmosphere of his homeworld. Everything about this planet seemed fragile. The gravity was too light. The buildings were too small. Even the humans scurrying around the spaceport looked like children playing at being adults. He was 8 feet tall with natural armor plating that had turned aside weapons from a dozen different worlds. His 4 arms could crush steel, and his eyes could see in complete darkness. Behind him, 24 elite Valith warriors filed out of the ship. Each one was a veteran of multiple conquests. Together, they had never failed a mission. This should be simple, Hyunwoo told his lieutenant as they moved through the spaceport. One small human causing trouble. We eliminate the target and remind this species why they serve us. But as they made their way toward the embassy district, Hyunwoo began to feel something he had not experienced in years. Unease. The humans around them seemed completely unaware that their world was occupied. They went about their daily business as if they were free, as if they had choices. It was disturbing. On other conquered worlds, the native species knew their place. They showed proper fear and respect. But these humans acted like they owned their planet. "Sir," his lieutenant said quietly, "the local commander wants to brief us on the target." The briefing took place in a secure room beneath the embassy. Commander Yuki, a mid-level Valith official, spread holographic images across the table. Pictures of crime scenes, dead Valith officers, destroyed equipment. "We believe it is one individual," Yuki explained. "Someone with advanced training and access to military-grade weapons. They have killed 7 of our people in the past 2 months." Hyunwoo studied the images. The kills were clean and professional. Whoever was doing this knew exactly where to strike to bypass Valith armor. They understood alien anatomy better than most doctors. "What do we know about the target?" he asked. "Nothing concrete. No fingerprints, no DNA, no clear photographs. They move like smoke and strike like lightning. Our best guess is that it is a human special forces operative who somehow learned about our presence here." Hyunwoo nodded. Every species produced a few exceptional warriors. Apparently Earth was no different. "We will set a trap. Use one of our people as bait and wait for the assassin to come." That night, Ambassador Kellen worked late in his office, just as he had been instructed. The building was surrounded by Hyunwoo's warriors, hidden in shadows and on rooftops. Motion sensors covered every approach. Heat detectors scanned for warm bodies. Nothing could get close without being detected. Hyun-woo waited on the roof across the street, watching through enhanced vision scopes. His team reported ready positions through their comm system. Everything was perfect. The attack came from a direction no one expected. The building's own security system turned against them first. Lights went out floor by floor. Electronic locks began opening and closing randomly. The elevator started moving between floors without anyone calling it. Systems failure, one of his warriors reported over the comm. All our equipment is going crazy. Then the explosions began. Small charges detonated throughout the building, each one perfectly placed to cause maximum confusion without bringing down the structure. Smoke filled the hallways. Alarm systems screamed. In the chaos, Hyun-woo lost contact with half his team. Report. He barked into his communicator. Only static answered. Through his scope, he saw a figure moving through the smoke on the third floor. Small and quick, dressed in dark clothing that seemed to absorb light. The assassin moved with a fluid grace that reminded him of the deadliest predators from his homeworld. But this was just a human. How could one weak earth creature cause such chaos? His question was answered when he watched the figure encounter two of his warriors in a hallway. The aliens were bigger, stronger, better armed. The human should have died in seconds. Instead, the assassin flowed around their attacks like water. Every movement was precise and calculated. Blades appeared and disappeared so quickly that Hyun-woo could barely follow them. Within moments, both warriors were down. "Impossible," he whispered. The figure looked up directly at his position, as if sensing his presence across the street. Even through the scope, Hyun-woo could see something in those eyes that made his armor feel suddenly thin. It was not anger or hatred. It was something much worse. It was the cold, patient hunger of a natural-born killer. More of his warriors went silent on the comm system. The few who still responded were reporting casualties, equipment failures, and something that no Valith officer ever wanted to hear in combat: fear. "Sir," his lieutenant's voice crackled through the static, "we need to withdraw. This thing is not human. It cannot be human." But Hyun-woo was already moving. His pride would not let him retreat from a single opponent, no matter how skilled. He leaped from building to building, using his superior strength and speed to reach the embassy. He found the assassin in Ambassador Kellen's office. The diplomat was already dead, slumped over his desk. The killer stood with her back to the door, wiping blood from a curved blade. When she turned around, Hyun-woo saw the face of a young human female, barely more than a child by her species standards. But her eyes held the accumulated weight of a dozen kills, and her smile was colder than the space between stars. "You must be the famous Captain Hyun-woo," she said in perfect Valith language. "I have been waiting to meet you." He raised his weapon, but she was moving before he could fire. The blade that found the gap in his armor was guided by knowledge that should have taken years to acquire. As his vision faded, Hyun-woo realized the terrible truth. Humanity had not produced an exceptional warrior. They had created something far worse. They had made the perfect weapon. Min-ho had always been curious about people. As class president, he felt responsible for making sure everyone felt included. That was why he kept trying to befriend Hana, even though she always politely declined his invitations. But today something was different. She seemed more tired than usual, and there was a new bandage on her arm. When she thought no one was looking, he caught her wincing as she reached for her textbook. "Are you okay?" he asked during lunch break. "You seem hurt." Hana looked up from her rice bowl with those quiet eyes that never seemed to show much emotion. "I am fine. Just clumsy lately." It was the same kind of answer she always gave. Simple, believable, and designed to end the conversation. But Min-ho had noticed that Hana had been clumsy quite often recently. More often than seemed normal for anyone. After school, instead of heading to his student council meeting, Min-ho decided to follow her. He told himself he was just worried about a classmate. Maybe she was having problems at home. Maybe she needed help but was too shy to ask. He stayed far behind as she walked through the busy streets of Seoul. Hannah moved differently when she was not in school. Her steps were more careful, and her head turned constantly as if she was watching for something or someone. She stopped at a convenience store and bought a bottle of water. Then she continued walking until she reached the entrance to Hongik University subway station. But instead of going down to the trains, she walked past the entrance and into a narrow alley behind the station. Minho hesitated. Following someone into a dark alley felt wrong, even if he was worried about them. But his curiosity was stronger than his caution. He crept to the corner and peered around it. What he saw made no sense at all. Hannah was talking to an older man in a military uniform. The man looked to be in his 50s with gray hair and scars on his face that spoke of old battles. He was not Korean, but he spoke Korean perfectly as he handed Hannah a small package. "The situation is getting worse," the man said in a low voice. "They'd brought in hunters from off-world. The elite troops trained specifically to deal with threats like you." "I noticed," Hannah replied. Her voice was different too. Not the soft, shy tone she used at school. This voice was sharp and confident. 25 of them. All dead now. Minho felt his blood turn to ice. 25 what were dead. What was Hannah talking about? "The Valif High Command is starting to take notice," the man continued. "They may decide Earth is too much trouble and simply eliminate the entire population. Then we need to move faster," Hannah said. "Give me the locations of their remaining safe houses. All of them." The man looked worried. "That is 12 targets in 6 different cities. Even for you, that might be too much. Let me worry about what I can handle, General Taeyeon." Minho almost gasped out loud. General. This man was a general. And he was taking orders from a 17-year-old girl. "There is something else," the general said. "We think one of your classmates is getting suspicious, a girl named Juan. Our sources say she has been asking questions." Hannah was quiet for a long moment. "I will handle it. Be careful. We cannot afford to lose you. You are the only weapon we have that they truly fear." "Weapon?" Minho's mind reeled. What kind of weapon looked like a quiet high school student? The meeting ended quickly after that. Hannah tucked the package into her school bag and walked back toward the street. Minho pressed himself against the wall, hoping she would not see him. But as she passed his hiding spot, she stopped and turned to look directly at him. "Hello, Minho," she said calmly. "You can come out now." His heart hammered as he stepped into the open. Hannah watched him with those same quiet eyes, but now he could see something else behind them. Something dangerous and calculating. "How long have you been listening?" she asked. "Not long," he said quickly. "I was just worried about you. You seemed hurt, and I thought maybe." "Maybe what?" "Maybe you needed help." Hannah studied his face for what felt like hours. Finally, she seemed to reach a decision. "Walk with me," she said. "There are things you need to understand." As they walked through the darkening streets, Hannah began to tell him the truth. About the invasion that had happened 3 years ago. About the mind control technology that kept most humans unaware of their situation. About the slave ships that took people away in the night. About the resistance that fought back from the shadows. And about her role in all of it. "You are an assassin," Minho said when she finished. It was not a question. "I am a soldier," she corrected. "The aliens think humans are weak because we are smaller than them. Because we do not have natural armor or 4 arms or enhanced senses. But they made a mistake." "What mistake?" "They assumed that physical strength was the only kind of power that mattered. They'd never considered that the most dangerous predator might be the one that looks helpless." Minho thought about all the times he had seen Hannah in class. Quiet, shy, always alone. The perfect victim. Except she was the exact opposite. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. "Because you followed me. Because you noticed something was wrong. And because I think you might be able to help." "Help how?" Hannah stopped walking and looked at him with eyes that seemed much older than 17. The aliens are coming for me. All of them. And when they do, I am going to need people I can trust watching my back. Minho felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. What are you asking me to do? I am asking you to choose, Hannah said simply. You can go home, forget this conversation, and pretend you never learned the truth, or you can help me save our world. She held out her hand to him. It was small and looked delicate, but Minho now knew it had killed more enemies than most armies. What is it going to be, class president? Minho looked at her outstretched hand. Then he thought about his classmates, sitting in school every day with no idea that their planet was occupied by aliens who saw them as livestock. He reached out and shook her hand. Tell me what you need me to do. Commander Zelthor studied the intelligence reports from his flagship orbiting Earth. 25 elite warriors dead, Captain Hyunwoo dead. 3 safe houses destroyed in a single night. The human assassin was becoming more than just a problem. They were becoming a symbol of resistance that could spread to other worlds. We need to force them into the open, he told his tactical officer. This ghost cannot hide forever. What do you suggest, sir? Zelthor pulled up detailed scans of Seoul International Academy. The assassin is young, likely still in school somewhere. We hit the schools and forced them to reveal themselves, protecting the innocent. It was a desperate plan, but desperate times called for harsh measures. If one human could kill so many trained warriors, they had to be stopped before other humans learned to fight back. The attack began at exactly 9:30 in the morning during second period math class. Hannah was working through algebra problems when she felt the building shake. It was subtle at first, like heavy trucks passing by outside. But her enhanced senses picked up something else. The low hum of alien transport ships hovering nearby. She looked up from her textbook and saw Minho watching her with worried eyes. 3 seats away, Juwon was also staring at her, her face pale with fear. Both of them had noticed the same thing Hannah had. The sound outside was not traffic. Everyone stay calm, Mr. Kim said from the front of the classroom. It is probably just construction work nearby. But Hannah was already moving. She reached into her school bag and pressed a hidden button on what looked like an ordinary calculator. The device sent an emergency signal to General Taeyeon. Message received. Under attack. Protecting civilians. The real attack started 30 seconds later. Alien soldiers smashed through the windows of the first-floor classrooms. Students screamed as 7-foot-tall warriors in full battle armor stormed into the building, their weapons charged with deadly energy as they shouted orders in their harsh language. All humans on the ground, their translation devices barked. We are looking for one specific target. Surrender the assassin, and the rest will live. Hannah felt her blood turn cold. They had found her. Somehow they had tracked her to the school. Now every student and teacher in the building was in danger because of her. What do we do? Minho whispered as students around them dropped to the floor in terror. Hannah stood up slowly. This was what she had been trained for, what she had been created for. But it had always been missions in the dark, fighting enemies who knew they were at war. Now she had to protect innocent people who did not even know aliens existed. Stay down, she told Minho and Juwon. No matter what happens, stay down. She walked toward the classroom door as alien voices echoed through the hallways below. Other students watched her with confusion. Why was the quiet girl walking toward danger instead of hiding like everyone else? Where is the human called Hannah? An alien voice boomed through the school's speaker system. We know you are here. Show yourself, or we start killing students. Mr. Kim looked around the classroom frantically. Hannah, get away from the door. Come back here where it is safe. But safety was an illusion now. The only way to make her classmates truly safe was to give the aliens what they wanted. Her. Hannah opened the classroom door and stepped into the hallway. 3 alien soldiers were moving up the stairs toward the second floor. Each one carried weapons that could kill a dozen humans with one shot. Their armor was thick enough to stop bullets from human weapons. But Hana was not carrying human weapons. The first alien never saw her coming. She moved like water flowing around obstacles, her blade finding the weak points in his armor that she had memorized from studying dead bodies. He dropped without making the sound. The second alien spun toward her, raising his energy rifle. Hana grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and threw it at his head. While he was stumbling backward, she reached him and drove her second blade up through the gap under his helmet. The third alien was smarter. He activated his comm system to call for backup while firing at her. Hana rolled behind a row of lockers as energy bolts burned holes in the metal around her. From her hiding spot, she could hear more aliens entering the building. Too many to fight directly. She needed to be smarter than that. Hana reached into her bag and pulled out what looked like a makeup compact. Inside were small explosive charges designed to look like ordinary items. She set the timer for 30 seconds and threw it down the hallway. The explosion brought down part of the ceiling, blocking the stairway and trapping the remaining aliens on the first floor, but it also cut off her own escape route. "Attention, human assassin," the alien commander's voice echoed through the building. "You have 60 seconds to surrender yourself in the main lobby, or we begin executing students." Hana looked back toward her classroom. Through the door window, she could see her classmates huddled on the floor. Minho was trying to keep everyone calm. Juwon was staring at the door, probably wondering if the quiet girl she sat next to every day was really about to save all their lives. She had spent 3 years learning to be invisible, to blend in and strike from the shadows. But sometimes the best way to protect people was to step into the light. Hana walked toward the stairs, her weapons hidden but ready. The aliens wanted to see humanity's secret weapon. She was about to show them exactly what they had created when they decided to invade Earth. But as she moved through the damaged hallway, she heard something that made her smile. The sound of police sirens in the distance, and behind them, the deeper rumble of military vehicles. General Taehyun had received her signal. The cavalry was coming. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They thought they were hunting one dangerous human in a building full of helpless victims. They did not realize they had just attacked a school under the protection of Earth's most lethal predator. And now that predator was very, very angry. Hana reached the main lobby just as the alien commander finished counting down from 60. Commander Zelthor stood in the center of the room surrounded by his remaining soldiers. Behind them, 20 students from the first floor were kneeling with their hands behind their heads. Their faces showed pure terror as they stared at weapons pointed at their backs. "So you are the famous human assassin," Zelthor said as she entered the lobby. His 4 eyes studied her with interest. "You look like a child. How many of my people have you killed, little one?" "Not enough," Hana replied calmly. She kept her hands visible but ready. Around the lobby, she counted 8 alien soldiers in full combat armor. Their positions were good but not perfect. They had made the mistake of thinking like conquerors instead of thinking like defenders. "Surrender your weapons and come with us," Zelthor commanded. "Do this, and the students live. Refuse, and we kill them all." Hana was about to respond when she heard footsteps behind her. A human man in an expensive suit walked into the lobby from the administrative offices. He was middle-aged with carefully styled hair and the confident walk of someone used to being in charge. "There is no need for more violence," the man said in accented English. "I am Ambassador Seojin, and I can resolve this situation peacefully." Hana felt ice form in her stomach. She recognized the name from Resistance intelligence files. Seojin was supposed to be a human diplomat working with the United Nations, but if he was here now, talking to alien soldiers like old friends, it meant something much worse. "Ambassador," Zelthor nodded respectfully. "I thought you were off-world." "I returned as soon as I heard about the troubles," Seojin replied. "This situation has gone too far. Too many good soldiers have died because of one misguided child." He turned to face Hana with a smile that never reached his eyes. "You have fought bravely, but it is time to accept reality." Humanity's place in the galaxy is beside our Valith friends, not against them. Friends? Hannah stared at him in disbelief. They are slave traders. They steal people from their families and sell them like animals. They are bringing civilization to a primitive world, Seojin corrected. Some individuals must be relocated for the greater good of both species. It is a small price to pay for peace. The truth hit Hannah like a physical blow. This man was not just cooperating with the aliens. He was helping them hunt humans. He was the reason the aliens had found the school. He had sold out his own species for a position in their empire. "You told them where to find me," she said. "I told them where to find a terrorist who was disrupting the natural order," Seojin replied coldly. "Your resistance group has been feeding you lies about alien intentions. The truth is that humanity needs guidance from a more advanced species." One of the kneeling students began to cry quietly. The sound made something snap inside Hannah's chest. These aliens had invaded her world, enslaved her people, and now they had found a human willing to help them do it. "General Taeyeon trusted you," she said. "The resistance shared intelligence with your diplomatic office, and I shared that intelligence with people who could use it properly." Seojin smiled. "Do you know how many resistance cells we have eliminated thanks to information from your precious general? How many weapons cages we have destroyed? How many safe houses we have raided?" Hannah felt the world tilt around her. If Seojin had been feeding information to the aliens, then the resistance was not just compromised. It was destroyed. All those brave people who had fought in the shadows, all those who had died believing they were protecting humanity, had been betrayed by one of their own leaders. "Where is General Taeyeon?" she asked quietly. "In a detention facility off-world," Seojin replied, "along with most of your former allies. They are being educated about the benefits of cooperation." The alien commander stepped forward impatiently. "Enough talking. Human assassin, you will come with us now, or the students die." But Hannah was no longer looking at the aliens. She was studying Seojin's face, memorizing every detail. The way he stood, the way he smiled, the way he looked at the terrified students as if they were nothing more than useful tools. "You are right about one thing," she said to the traitor. "This situation has gone too far." In one fluid motion, she drew the ceramic blade hidden in her school uniform sleeve. It was small and light, designed to pass through any security scanner. Seojin saw it coming and tried to step backward, but Hannah was already moving. The blade found his throat before he could call for help. "That was for General Taeyeon," she whispered as the ambassador fell. The alien soldiers raised their weapons, but they had made a critical error. They had positioned themselves to watch the main entrances and the students. They had not considered that their human ally might become a target. Now they were out of position, and Hannah was among them. What happened next lasted only 30 seconds, but it would be talked about in alien military academies for decades to come. A single human, armed with nothing but small blades and improvised weapons, turned a controlled hostage situation into a massacre. She moved between the soldiers like death itself, using their size and armor against them. When they tried to shoot, they hit each other. When they tried to corner her, she vanished into blind spots they did not know existed. By the time the last alien fell, the lobby was silent except for the quiet sobbing of terrified students. Hannah knelt beside Seojin's body and searched his pockets. She found a communication device and a data pad containing names, addresses, and detailed information about resistance operations. The scope of his betrayal was even worse than she had imagined. But there was other information too: transport schedules, detention facility locations, and most importantly, the coordinates for the off-world prison where General Taeyeon was being held. Hannah stood up and looked at the students still kneeling on the floor. They stared back at her with a mixture of fear and awe, finally understanding what the quiet girl from their school really was. "The police will be here soon," she told them. "Tell them you were rescued by Korean Special Forces. Do not mention me." As she walked toward the emergency exit, Minho's voice called after her. "Where are you going?" Hannah paused at the door and looked back at her classmates. People she had sat beside for months. People she had protected but could never truly be close to. "To finish what I started," she said. Then she was gone, leaving behind only questions and the bodies of humanity's enemies. 3 days after the school siege, Hannah stood on the rooftop of an abandoned warehouse overlooking Seoul's industrial district. In her hands was the communication device she had taken from Ambassador Seojin's body. She had spent hours learning to use it, studying the alien language and encryption codes. Now it was time to make the most dangerous call of her life. She activated the device and sent a message to Commander Zelther's flagship orbiting Earth. The message was simple and direct. She wanted to surrender in exchange for the release of all human prisoners held off-world. The response came within minutes. Zelther himself appeared as a holographic projection above the device. His 4 eyes burned with hatred as he looked at the young human who had killed so many of his people. "You have caused me considerable trouble, little assassin," he said. "Give me one reason why I should not simply destroy your entire city as punishment." "Because I am offering you something more valuable than revenge," Hannah replied calmly. "Me, the human weapon your empire fears, delivered directly to your ship with no tricks and no backup." Zelther leaned forward with interest. "In exchange for what?" "All human prisoners currently held in your detention facilities. Every man, woman, and child taken from Earth in the past 3 years. You release them all and transport them safely back to their home planet." "And if I refuse?" Hannah smiled, and there was nothing warm or friendly about it. "Then I continue doing what I do best, hunting your people, killing your officers, making your empire afraid to set foot on Earth soil." The alien commander considered this for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "Very well, but there are conditions. You will come aboard my ship alone and unarmed. You will submit to immediate detention, and you will provide us with complete information about human resistance operations." "Agreed," Hannah said. "But I want proof that the prisoners are being released before I board your ship." "You are in no position to make demands." "I am in the perfect position to make demands," Hannah corrected. "Your superiors want me captured alive so they can study how one human killed so many of your elite soldiers. Dead, I am just another casualty. Alive, I am valuable intelligence." Zelther's expression showed that she was right. The Valith High Command had ordered her brought back for interrogation and study. They needed to understand how humanity had produced such an effective killer. "Tomorrow at noon," he said finally, "transport coordinates will be sent to your device. Come alone, or the deal is canceled." The hologram flickered and disappeared, leaving Hannah alone on the rooftop. She had 24 hours to prepare for what would certainly be her final mission. But first, there was something she needed to do. That evening, Hannah returned to Seoul International Academy. The school was closed while authorities investigated the alien attack, but she knew how to get inside without being seen. She made her way to her old classroom and sat down in her corner seat one last time. She pulled out a piece of paper and began to write. The letter was addressed to Minho and Jiwon, the 2 classmates who had discovered her secret. In simple words, she explained what she was about to do and why it was necessary. She told them about the thousands of humans being held as slaves on alien worlds. She told them about the resistance fighters who had been captured because of Seojin's betrayal. She told them that sometimes one person had to sacrifice everything to save everyone else. At the end of the letter, she wrote something that surprised even her. "Thank you for being my friends. I never had friends before. It was nice to pretend I was normal for a little while." She left the letter on Minho's desk and walked out of the school for the last time. The next morning, Hannah prepared carefully for her surrender. She showered and put on her school uniform one final time. But hidden throughout the clothing were items that would not show up on alien scanners. Ceramic components that could be assembled into weapons. Chemical compounds disguised as ordinary teenage makeup. A small explosive device built into the sole of her shoe. The aliens expected her to come unarmed, and technically she would be. But Hannah had learned long ago that the most dangerous weapons were often the ones that did not look like weapons at all. At exactly noon, she stood in the designated transport coordinates in an empty field outside Seoul. The alien ship descended from the clouds like a metal mountain, its shadow covering acres of farmland. A transport beam lifted her from the ground and drew her into the ship's belly. As soon as she materialized on the alien deck, energy restraints locked around her wrists and ankles. Valith soldiers surrounded her with weapons ready. Commander Zelthor approached with a smile of triumph. "Welcome aboard, human weapon. I hope you enjoy your stay. It will be a very long one." But as he spoke, Hana could see through the ship's viewports. Other vessels were departing from the flagship, heading toward Earth's surface. True to the agreement, Zelthor was releasing the human prisoners. "How does it feel to know you saved so many lives?" he asked mockingly. Hana looked up at him with calm eyes. "You should ask me that question again in about 10 minutes. "Why? What happens in 10 minutes? "You find out what kind of weapon I really am," she said quietly. Then she began to smile, and Commander Zelthor felt something he had never experienced before in all his years of conquest. True fear, because he suddenly realized that he had not captured Earth's deadliest predator. He had invited her aboard his ship. The first explosion came exactly 10 minutes after Hana's capture, just as she had promised. It started small, in the ship's main power core, where a tiny device hidden in her shoe sole had been slowly releasing a chemical compound into the alien fusion reactor. Commander Zelthor felt the ship shudder and saw the lights flicker. "What was that?" he demanded. His engineering officer's voice crackled over the communication system. "Sir, we are detecting system failures throughout the ship, multiple cascading malfunctions in critical systems." Zelthor spun toward Hana, who stood calmly in her energy restraints. She was still wearing her school uniform, still looking like nothing more dangerous than a teenage girl, but her eyes held a knowledge that made his blood run cold. "What did you do?" he snarled. "I kept my promise," Hana replied. "I came aboard unarmed. But I never said I came aboard harmless." The second explosion rocked the ship's artificial gravity generators. Suddenly, everyone in the detention bay was floating weightless as the gravity failed. Everyone except Hana, who had been expecting this, and used the confusion to slip free of her energy restraints. The ceramic components hidden in her clothing came together in her hands, forming blades that could cut through alien armor. The makeup compact became a small but powerful explosive. The hair tie hiding in her ponytail revealed itself as a garrowed wire, strong enough to cut through metal. "Impossible," Zelthor breathed as he watched the harmless prisoner transform into a killing machine. "You were scanned. You were searched. You came aboard with nothing." "I came aboard as a weapon," Hana corrected. "Everything I needed was already inside me." What followed was not a battle. It was a demonstration of why humanity had survived as a species for millions of years, despite being smaller and weaker than most of the galaxy's predators. It was a lesson in what happened when evolution's greatest ambush predator decided to stop hiding. Hana moved through the ship like a force of nature. In the weightless environment, her smaller size became an advantage as she used walls and ceilings as launching points. The aliens' superior strength meant nothing when they could not get their hands on her. More importantly, every system failure she had triggered was spreading throughout the ship. The Valith had designed their technology to be efficient and interconnected. But that same interconnection became a fatal weakness when someone understood how to make one small failure cascade into total system collapse. "Sir," the engineering officer reported in a panic, "the ship is losing life support. Hull integrity is failing. We need to evacuate immediately." But the escape pods were already launching without crew members inside them. Hana had programmed them to eject automatically, stranding the aliens aboard their dying ship. Commander Zelthor found her in the main command center, calmly uploading data from the ship's computers onto a small device. Around them, the bridge crew lay unconscious or dead. Sparks flew from damaged control panels as the great warship slowly tore itself apart. "You are insane," he said. "This ship will explode. You will die along with everyone else." "I know," Hannah replied without looking up from her work. "But the data I am stealing contains the locations of every Valith military installation, every slave facility, every weakness in your empire's defenses. When this information reaches Earth, my people will know exactly how to hurt you. One human cannot destroy an entire galactic empire." Hannah finally turned to face him. Her school uniform was torn and bloody, but her voice remained calm and steady. "You are right. One human cannot destroy your empire, but one human can teach the rest of the galaxy that you are not as strong as you pretend to be." She activated a final device, and suddenly every communication array on the ship began broadcasting. The signal was not going to Earth. It was going to every inhabited world in the galaxy. The message was simple. It showed recordings of the past week's events. A single human teenager systematically destroying Valith military units. An elite alien strike force being eliminated by one small girl with improvised weapons. The greatest warriors in the galaxy being outfought by someone they had dismissed as weak and primitive. "Do you understand what you have done?" Zelthor whispered. "I have shown the galaxy what humans really are," Hannah said. "Not the helpless animals you thought you were conquering. Not the primitive species you planned to enslave. We are the apex predators of our world. And now everyone will know it." The ship's hull finally gave way, and the command center began depressurizing. Emergency barriers slammed down, sealing them inside the bridge. They had perhaps 5 minutes before the life support failed completely. Hannah sat down in the captain's chair and looked out at the stars through the cracking viewports. In the distance, she could see Earth, blue and beautiful and free. The transport ships carrying rescued human prisoners were already entering the atmosphere. "What happens now?" Zelthor asked. "Now other species start to wonder," Hannah said. "If humans can do this to the mighty Valith Empire, what could they do to us? Fear spreads faster than any army, Commander. And fear of humanity will spread across every world you have conquered." As the ship continued to break apart around them, Hannah closed her eyes and thought about her classmates. Minho and Juan would have found her letter by now. They would understand why she had to do this. They would remember that the quiet girl who sat in the corner was really their protector. 6 months later, Minho stood in the same corner of the same classroom where Hannah used to sit. The desk was empty now, but not forgotten. On it, students had placed flowers and small gifts, a memorial to the girl who had saved their world. The news reports called it the Silent Revolution. Across the galaxy, conquered species were rising up against their Valith oppressors. The alien empire was collapsing as world after world demanded their freedom. And in every battle, in every act of rebellion, the fighters whispered the same name: Hannah. The human who had shown them that size and strength meant nothing compared to courage and cunning. Juan placed a new flower on the desk and smiled sadly. "I hope you know what you started," she whispered to the empty chair. Outside the classroom window, Earth continued to spin peacefully under an alien-free sky. Humanity was safe, protected by the memory of one quiet girl who had been the deadliest weapon their world had ever produced. The galaxy would never underestimate humans again.